Back at it. Tonight, we're going to be working on installing the outer wheelhouse. Now on the driver's side, I installed a full wheelhouse, so I'm doing it a little bit differently on the passenger side here. So in all honesty, it might be easier to install, just go ahead and install the full wheelhouse. But in situations like this, you know, a lot of people will argue, keep as much of the original sheet metal as possible. It's stronger and just better made. Keeping that in mind, I want to get the practice, because anytime I can get practice, I'm going to take it. I don't know that it's more challenging, but it's challenging in a different way than when I installed the full wheelhouse. It just presents different challenges, and I'm looking to get as much experience and practice with this project as possible. First thing I'm going to do tonight is get the cutoff wheel out, and we're going to remove the rest of the outer wheelhouse. And that's going to include drilling through some of these spot welds to remove it from this brace that comes down out of the sail panel. Sorry, I lied. First thing we're going to do is locate the spot welds, because the wire wheel is already on the angle grinder, and it would just be stupid to take it off to use the cutoff wheel whenever I could just do it now. So, work smarter, not harder. I can't even see. Oh, it's terrible. I knew something was different tonight, and I just realized I forgot my hearing protection. Whoops! Shut my trusty air filter out. I'm telling you guys, well worth the money I have invested in this. Can't say enough good things about it. Anywho. Got the spot welds revealed. There's 5 here and then 2 under on each side there. Center punch them. Then I'll go to my 1/8 drill bit, and then we will finish them off with the spot weld cutter, because this combination proved to be pretty successful on removing the passenger side trunk floor pan. Let's get her done. So we made pretty quick work of those. They're out. I also got the ones under here and here. So this is broken free. Now I need to separate where the remaining part of the outer wheelhouse attaches to the inner wheelhouse, the seam here. I have a few different ideas of how I'm going to do that. There are spot welds in here. I'm not entirely sure how they're connected. Looks like there's some kind of crimping. I don't know if that's like some kind of weld crimping or what, but there are spot welds here too. First thing I'm going to try is using the handy dandy air chisel and seeing if I can't just go up through here and separate the two.
Alright, so that's pretty much useless. That's not doing anything but removing undercoating and throwing it all over my face.
Nala, sit. High five. Good. Take it. Go get it. Tonight was just one of those evenings where all day you're thinking about getting out of here, chomping at the bit, wanting to get in the garage. But as the evening hours drop off, so does your motivation. Doesn't happen very often, but it's kind of like getting out of bed. Sometimes you just have to force yourself to do it and get on with the day. Question is, will it go back on the car? Alright, I just cut for about an hour. I was busy cutting out spot welds. Figured you guys have seen enough of that. But the way that I had the outer wheelhouse in there, it was just not fitting in that well. I was trying to test fit it by laying this flange on the outside of this inner piece, but things just weren't lining up. Part of the reason I think is the flange was hitting this and it wasn't allowed to move forward. So I came through here, cut these out, and then I took a crowbar and bent this out just a little bit so I can at least try getting this flange up in there. And hopefully that'll give us a better fit, because I'm starting to think that this wheelhouse might be a bit long. I don't know yet. We'll see. Let's give it a try. Well, this is the best I've had it fitting, but it's not perfect, and now it's decision time. From a distance, it looks like it fits pretty good, and I mean, overall it does. The seams, for the most part, let's see if I can get you light. Now, on the other side, I installed the full wheelhouse. So I don't know, is this gap, this seam, supposed to be filled with seam sealer? Because it's tight, but there's this groove here, and this has a groove on this side. So I don't know how well those have to be lined up. But the seams pretty much line up. The reason why it's decision time is, right now, the only way to tell if the quarter panel is going to work is if I start cutting it apart to fit it in there to the sections that I've left on the car. And once I do that, I could get it in there and find that things aren't quite going to line up. If I remove this section of the car and that section of the car, it gives me a lot more room to shift things around and try to make things work. So as much as I want to leave that section of the quarter, I'm starting to lean toward doing a full quarter panel replacement. But again, I probably will do the same thing I did on the other side and cut around here just to make it easier. I got a feeling before I'm done filming this episode, I'm going to be cutting the rest of the quarter panel off the car. Mainly because I've gone that route before. And I'm comfortable with it, and I know I can make it work. But with what I have, I don't really want to start cutting up the new quarter panel to make it fit with what is remaining on the car and find out it's not going to work. Then I have a new quarter panel that's cut up in a bunch of pieces. And the end result is going to buy a new quarter panel. So decisions are going to have to be made at this point. I think I'm going to sleep on this one. Alright guys, I slept on it and I'm going to replace the entire quarter. Mainly because I don't know how the new quarter is going to fit up to this wheelhouse, and I know that I'm going to need to be able to shift things around, and I don't want to cut this thing in half to try to spare that section of the car and get into trouble. I think my best bet is to just remove this quarter and do it just like I did on the other side. Plus, I mean, the inside of this quarter is pretty rusty. It could be cleaned up and possibly used. You probably could patch this, I bet, with a flange down in there if I made a new flange, but I'm comfortable with doing it this way. That's how I did the other side. Not going to think about it anymore. We're just going to do it. So I'm going to start by locating all my spot welds, and we're going to start drilling them out. Got her off pretty intact. I was fighting it tooth and nail because I wanted to take it off completely intact, just because I wanted to see if I could do it. It fought me a good bit up in this corner, but I finally got it broken free. I made the right decision. I'm happy I took this thing off in its entirety, because this will give me the chance to strip all this down and get it coated nicely, taken care of. What was going on in here was there's seam sealer that comes down over this flange on the quarter panel, and that's why I couldn't see it. So anyway, now that that's off, I can just drill through here, these spot welds, and remove this flange. And then I just got to drill through the couple spot welds in this brace, and I'll be able to remove the remaining piece of this quarter panel. I'm happy I went this route. I don't know if it was the best decision, but it was a good decision. Alright guys, new night. Took the liberty of coming out here and cleaning up the spot weld areas on the pieces I still have to remove. This is the inner part of the quarter panel, the flange that welds to the filler panel. You can see here are the spot welds. There's 1, 2, 3, looks like 4 or 5. But you can see what I mean by it's easier to just cut this section off, leave this on, and then come back and drill out these spot welds and pry that off. Same thing with this section of the quarter panel here. It looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spot welds in along here. On the other side, I found it was easier to just cut this section off, leave this part on, and then I just drill through this And it's a little bit more work because I do have to come back through and fill these holes so that I have something to weld to whenever I put the new quarterback on, but it's just less headache up front, and I mean, it's really not that bad filling in those holes. Here's what this section looks like down here. I don't know why, I find stuff like this interesting. There's at least 8 spot welds that weld the quarter to the rocker. I was really interested in seeing this area where the notch is cut out to compensate for the B-pillar, because that is not on the replacement panels, at least the ones that I have. So I'm going to drill these spot welds out, remove these flanges, and then maybe we will see how the quarter panel fits. I don't know yet. But we are ready to fit all 3 panels on. See how things line up. Remember, I cut the quarter panel off here, so I need to compensate for that by cutting off this flange right in there. The wheelhouse is preventing it from coming up where it needs to be, so there's some changes that most definitely have to be made. Well, I was secretly wishing that this one would just go on like a glove. Taking it easier on me than what the driver's side panel did, but I mean, I knew what the reality of the situation was going to be. But I have it on okay. And what I have to do at this point is mark areas. See right in here, I got to mark this area and trim this out so that this can drop down in. This area needs to be trimmed back a little bit to allow this to slide back, because this quarter panel does need to move back just a little bit. But it's an okay initial fitment. I don't know what's going on with the outer wheelhouse. There's going to need to be some adjustments made, because it seems like this back end is too long and it's preventing the quarter panel from moving up where it wants to rest. So once I make these adjustments and get the quarter panel fitting a little bit better to the car, I will mark where it's lying in here, and then I'll take the quarter panel off and we'll start playing around with this and seeing what kind of adjustments we might have to make. I was really hoping that I could get the wheelhouse fit just right so that we knew it was fitting up well to the quarter panel. It's not quite going to be a complete installment because we've got to figure out what's going on with the wheelhouse in comparison to the quarter panel. So it's close, but it's not quite there. I mean, honestly, the quarter panel seems to be fitting pretty well. If I have to make adjustments to the outer wheelhouse, I'm not really going to sweat that. I'm pretty confident I can figure that out. It's by far going to be easier than what I had to deal with on the driver's side with all the collision damage. So I still feel like I'm on easy street right now. And I'm having a ton of fun. I think that's going to be it for this episode, guys. I wanted to get farther, but didn't quite get there. But things are looking promising. So I appreciate you guys hanging out, tagging along for the ride. You guys are awesome. Can't thank you enough. And until the next episode, guys, stay driven.